He is Lane Kiffin joining us on the program, Ole Miss head coach. He's known as the Portal King now. When did you get that title? When did you start to embrace the transfer portal?
I don't know about the title thing. We started on the portal, when they changed the rules, when they created it, and just really have utilized it. We still sign a lot of really good high school players, but it's basically just, as you guys know, professional sports. It's just the free agency part of it.
But you embraced it because initially you didn't like it.
Well, I don't know that it's great for college football and how many windows there are, and there's no structure like they have in professional sports. There's multiple windows, and guys can just keep going, keep transferring as many times as they want. So I don't know that that's really good for college football. But we still maximize it because we make it good for Ole Miss.
How would you restructure it if you had the authority?
Well, I think you just got to look at professional sports. They've been doing things for a long time. You wouldn't have multiple free agency windows, and you certainly wouldn't have windows that before the season was over you could go into. We have a system where guys go in at the end of the season when teams are still playing. So, that creates a lot of mental clutter for the guys. Even when they haven't gone in, they got other coaches calling them and trying to get them out of there and talk about going to other places. So it's a really poor system that way.
But are you more likely to look at a transfer than you are? And do you want a guy who's 20 or 21 who's proven, or you want an 18-year-old who's coming in as a freshman?
Well, I think it's really, if you just think of the system the same way as the NFL, you can go free agency, or you can go heavy draft, or you can go somewhere in the middle. And we still want to build through really good high school players, which we have a number of those that were making plays Saturday. But then we also go free agency also. Where it gets a little different is, in this free agency, you can get somebody that got 3 years left or just 1 year left, because 1 year of eligibility. So it's a little bit more complicated that way than just, oh, you're just going to go sign the best portal players. And, a lot of people, it's not like we're the only people that have done this. A lot of people for the last few years have done this, and it hasn't worked. So just like free agency and professional sports, or look in the NBA, you build these teams that are supposed to be good, and you can't buy culture. So you got to have other things in place and make sure that you pick the right pieces to come in, that they play together. And some of them end up having reduced roles from what they had at previous places.
Are you a big pregame speech guy?
No, I think you got the whole week just to talk to your team about things, and football is kind of you get hit in the mouth, and I don't know anybody remembers that. So I don't think there's a lot to that.
Did you say anything different prior to the Georgia game that you maybe wouldn't have said previous games?
No. Now throughout off season or the week, there were different things. The best thing that happened to us is Georgia beat us pretty good there a year ago. And the feeling of seeing that, the feeling of how that game went, him being bullied around in really the line of scrimmages, classic Georgia, what they do to a lot of people, and made a decision that we got to change our line of scrimmages. Even though we won 11 games last year, we wanted to beat Georgia. And so we went out and we did that. We changed the size of our line of scrimmages, the twitch of our defensive ends in order to pass rush against them. But we also game planned against Georgia a lot in the offseason. So it wasn't a speech. It wasn't even stuff that was done that week. We spent a lot of time leading up to this game schematically as coaches to prepare for it also.
So this is a year in the making that you are, like teams would do this with New England. You would get ready to gear up to beat New England when the Patriots were done. You're building your roster to beat Georgia.
Yeah, I just felt that Georgia was by far and away the top program in college football. And I think could have won the national championship last year. They lost one game and to Nick Saban, which really outside of Alabama, nobody has beat Georgia since COVID, Florida. So they're the top program by far. So yeah, if you're going to go win a championship, to me, it's got to go through Georgia. So you better build your team to be able to beat Georgia, especially when they're on our schedule. And I said at the beginning of your potential of you may have to play them twice.
Talking to Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss head coach, got a bye week, and then you'll be at Florida, then you host Mississippi State. What do you think of the 12-team playoff?
I think there's a lot of good. I think it keeps a lot of people excited, fans, keeps teams motivated to be in it. With everything, there's a cost and a benefit. And so those are the benefits. I think there's a cost too that, teams are programs are used to, fans are used to that 50% of teams win their last game. Now you're going to have, if you get in the top 12, 11 of them are going to lose. Only one's going to win their last game. So I think that'll be a little bit different. And I think they're going to have to learn, like any system, if you just start a playoff system that's really kind of bizarre the way it's put together about these buys and 5 team and where you slate and you get a home game. And so I think that will have a lot of work to do, because I think what probably won't happen, the top 12 teams won't get in, different than an NFL playoff where the top teams and they got to get in because people are going to choose who gets in. And there's such an imbalance of conferences and what it's like to have to play every week. For instance, in this conference, some of these other conferences, you got to show up 2-3 times a year, really. And you don't deal with the hostile environments that you deal with in this conference. So I think that's so different that it's going to be really hard to get the best 12 teams, especially with the setup where, you can play in a poorer conference, win the conference, you're going to get a bye. And here comes, some great team in the Big Ten or SEC that's, potentially even going on the road.
What do you think of Coach Saban on game day?
The little I've seen, he's done awesome. I actually left him a voicemail this morning. He seems happy. I didn't know that he would be. That's a long time of a lot of years of a very scheduled person that is used to routine. So, but he seems happy and probably a lot less stress.
The storming the field cost Ole Miss again. It's going to get even more expensive. I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have. You get concerned when they're storming the field with your own safety?
No, not really. I think you talk about Saban. I had a Saban moment, actually. That they were storming the field was still going on, and our SID Kyle Campbell's next to me, and so I gave him an ass chewing about how do we not have a better structure for this not in place. And everybody's like, "You're beating Georgia by 3 scores," and so it's kind of one of those Saban ass chewing situations, even in a win. I don't know. I was channeling it. Maybe it was because I was like, "All right, the only way to beat Georgia is to think like Nick Saban."
Do you have uniform approval?
Do I have uniform approval? Meaning,
like the color scheme, throwbacks, any of that? Do they have to run it by you?
I give that to our players. It's a players' game. Players think like recruits also. So our players choose our uniform combos. We opened up when we got here to more options for them. Just kind of when we got here, I kind of said, okay, we got to be a little bit different here at Ole Miss. We're not a traditional national powerhouse. So we've got to create something that players, recruits want to come play at. So let's have a really cool offense. Let's have neat uniforms. Let's play a different style. So I kind of said, kind of copying the Oregon model years ago when they started that.
I'm not sure what color that blue is. We thought it might have been Richard Petty blue, that how he painted his car. Do you have an official Ole Miss color designation?
Powder blue. Powder blue.
Just powder blue.
That's what they say.
I would say Richard Petty blue.
The analytics, and in powder blue over our first years here, we scored more points. I just feel like sometimes you look good, feel good, you play good. And so I think it looks good. I like it. And we seem to score more points in it and play better. So the players pick it, but sometimes in the bigger games, I push them that way.
Did they bring the goalposts back?
They were downtown. I saw that. And then somehow they cut them up because one of my son's buddies brought a piece up here, knocking on the window last night or 2 nights ago. It was a piece of the goalpost.
Well, do you have an ample supply of goalposts there at Ole Miss that you can just, bring them in? It's like if you break a backboard in the NBA, you just replace it?
That's a good question. The good thing is we have a bye and then we play in the swamp and then we come home. So maybe we have some time to go buy some if we don't.
Congrats on the win. Good to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. Have a good week. Thank you.
That is Mr. Portal. At least I saw an article calling him the Portal King there, and certainly done great things with it. Yes, Paul?
He's so important to have in college football. College football lost, Steve Spurrier a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
Nick Saban, Harbaugh. We need characters in the game, and also he's relevant because his team is relevant.
Yeah.
He's perfect for college football.